In every season you are worthy.
Thank you so much, Heinrich. You can invite me again just to be introduced by you. He really has a real gift of honoring people in such a way that you're thinking like, Jesus, you've really done some things in my life. So thank you so much, Heinrich, for that. And when I come to places, it's easy for me to see what happens in the pastors' couples' lives just to experience their church. And whenever Daniel and I come in here, and I said it at the marriage seminar as well, the ground that you come into when you come into Somerset-West here it's prepared ground. It's really, malleable. It's so ready for the word. And that's just, testimony to Heinrich and Nikki's hearts and you guys as well with that. So thank you for praying. Thank you for fasting. Thank you for doing all that you do. When you come in here as an outsider, it really feels like that, that whatever we share, it doesn't matter. I can just be here and stand here. But it will be fruitful because of the prayers that go into this place. So thank you for that. We honor you, Heinrich, Nikki. Thank you for having us. I'm just going to shift a little bit. Otherwise, my notes are going to fly all around. This morning, I'm going to share just something that was in my heart for this morning. It's not necessarily regarding marriage. Okay, I know we came here for the marriage seminar. Daniel and I will speak tonight again on just masculinity and femininity, both of us. So those of you who want to come, you're welcome to do that. So then we're going back into the relationships again. But this morning I want to share one of the weirdest stories in the Bible with you. But the Lord has just ministered to me so much through this particular story, and it's something that I feel sometimes. I know not here with you because you've got a pastor that really guides you in the whole counsel of God. But many times we miss stories like this, in the Word, because of mindsets, because of things that we see, prosperity gospel types of things. And I know, most of you know the Word, but when we read through this, I want to just shed some light on things that sometimes, pass us by. And for some of us, it'll be keys that might unlock something in your heart. Maybe in the season that you are in at this very moment. So while Heinrich was just sharing, this is something that friendship is also something that's in my heart. It's something that really witnesses with me, And while he was speaking about the friendships and the word that he brought is, I just wanted to say, for those of you that word is relevant for, I want to just ask you humbly, okay? When you go into friendships, just define friendship for you and for your friend. It's something that we go into many times just perception-wise, and you lose friendships because you don't define it. And I'm not saying you go there with a little list, and say, okay, this is what you're going to do. Just one practical thing, and then I'll get back to the sermon. One practical thing about friendship is Dana and I, we are a couple, obviously. We've got friends in Malmesbury. And the people that were here with us, they're different than us. For them, friendship means they can fall in my house whenever they want to. And they expect me and Danielle to do the same with them. But because friendship is not defined, then they feel that if I don't do that, I don't want to be friends with them. And the other way around as well. People that come to our house because we're busy, having to make an appointment to have lunch with us, they're like, nah, So just practically define friendship so that you don't lose friends that are actually great friends because your perception of friendship is this. And if they don't do it like this, then you lose the friendship. Please don't do that. Okay, that's on the side. We leave it there. Getting back to the sermon. So, the title of my sermon today is When the Way is in Your Way. Let's preach it, brother. Let's preach it. So, I don't know who of you like science fiction movies. I love them. Okay, yes, let's preach it. So, I love science fiction movies, and then I married my wife, and she cannot do any of that, okay? So, I've also become the king of the romantic movie. Because that is the only thing that we can watch together. Whenever there's something that's weird, she's like, no. She's discerning something off here. Please put it off. But science fiction movies aren't just for the movies. I'll read you a science fiction movie from the Bible today. Okay, so put your science fiction goggles on. You have to put the 3D on. And let's go through this story together. You guys that want to turn in your Bibles can go to Numbers 22. Or you can just follow there on the screen. Today's science fiction movie goes like this. We're gonna pick up there from verse 21 in Numbers 22. We find the story of Balaam. Balaam got up in the morning, he saddled his donkey, and he went with the Moabite officials. But God was very angry when he went. And the angel of the Lord stood in the road to oppose him. And Balaam was riding on his donkey, and his 2 servants were with him. And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand, it turned off the road into a field. And Balaam beat it to get it back on the road. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path through the vineyards with walls on both sides. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it pressed close to the wall, crushing Balaam's foot against it. So he beat the donkey again. Then the angel of the Lord moved on ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no room to turn either to the right or to the left. And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it lay down under Balaam. And he was angry and he beat it with his staff. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth. Okay, science fiction movie starting. Okay, right here. The science fiction is on in the Bible. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and it said to Balaam, "What have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times?" And Balaam answered the donkey, "You have made a fool of me. If only I had a sword in my hand, I will kill you right now." Then the donkey said to Balaam, "Am I not your own donkey, which you have always ridden to this day? Have I been in the habit of doing this to you?" "No," he said. Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand. And so he bowed low and he fell on his face. And the angel of the Lord asked him, "Why have you beaten your donkey these 3 times? I've come here to oppose you, because your path is a reckless one before me. And the donkey saw me, and he turned away from me these 3 times. If it had not turned away, I would certainly have killed you by now. But I would have spared it." And Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "I've sinned. I did not realize that it was you standing in the road to oppose me. Now if you are displeased, I will go back." And the angel of the Lord said to Balaam, "Go with the men, but speak only what I tell you." So Balaam went with Balak's officials. All right, science fiction movie ended. Now I'm somebody that I love, pictures, and I love to think about stories like kind of in a 3D type of way, because it just brings some other things to mind. You know what's crazy about this story, but apart from the whole science fiction thing? When I look at this story, I think there were 2 other people there with Balaam through this journey. His 2 servants. Now I'm thinking, just what did this look like? So they're walking, all of them on this path, going their merry way. And all of a sudden the donkey does this thing, and you get to the place where God opens the mouth of the donkey. Now I'm thinking, if God can do interpretations of tongues, that's maybe what happened there. God gave Balaam the interpretation of donkey for this conversation, but not necessarily to his 2 servants that were with him. So I'm thinking, it's like, oh. And then Balaam answers that. I think they must have thought, our boss has gone off his rocker. Totally. And it happened a couple of times where the donkey, and then Balaam interprets, speaks back. But you know what? When we read this story, it is such a powerful thing for us to grasp as Christians. Because what I want you to know is Balaam, yes, we know he did some weird things and some things that were not what God wanted him to do. But in this story where we find him here, he is a prophet of God. Okay? So don't miss that. Don't miss that, this man in this story knew God. He heard God's voice. He was one that followed and wanted to follow at least somewhere, the voice of the Lord. So it's not somebody that doesn't know the voice of God. It's not somebody that's like out there. No, it's somebody that really knew God, at least at some stage. So now we get to this place where Balaam goes off and he's going to speak to some people. But we find there three spaces that gets described in this story. And when you and I, so I'll bring this back to your heart just now, but in the story, the first space that we get is in the field. So I got some pictures for you here so that you can, I come from the R. Daar and the R. In the middle of nowhere. But I love it there. It's something that my kids don't necessarily understand when we drive through there. Like, Daddy, but there's nothing here. I know, that's awesome. You know who is here? God is here. In the sky and anyway, I won't go all nostalgic on you. But that's kind of something that I found. If you go into the Karoo, then you get all of these paths through the bushes. If there is bushes, if it's not a drought. But anyway. And you find wherever the sheep walk, they make little paths like this. So I'm thinking in my head, as they, Balaam and his donkey, they're going, they might be on a path such as this, where when you walk on the path, there is veering space. So, like there where all the sheep walked, they were on this, and then all of a sudden the donkey sees, and he goes off into the field. And Balaam gets angry, beats the donkey to get him back on the little path. Moving space number one. Moving space number two, you get the narrow path. That's one that I tried to just get this picture of, because he said he veered off the path, and then Balaam's foot crushed against the wall. So the place where God stood next was in this place where it's kind of like an enclosed space. And that was in those days, if you had a vineyard or something, you wanted to protect it from stuff, you built some walls like that. And they went through this, and the donkey again saw the angel of the Lord, and then he veered off, crushed his foot against the wall, and Balaam was angry, beat him again. But then lastly, this is the third space, the narrow place. Now, that's actually, when I searched for it online, that's actually an actual place in South Africa. It's called drukgang. So what that means is, the Afrikaans people will understand that, the drukgang, because that's how you get sheep on a truck. All of them, and then a drukgang is something that brings all the sheep together so that they form one line. Nowhere for them to move. And they go through that, and it's the only place that they can go to get onto the truck, right? Now, that's a space in South Africa, somewhere in the Eastern Cape, that they call drukgang, because of that visuals. There's no space for movement there. And this is this third space that we find in the story. And what happened there when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, there was no space for movement. He just went and he laid down. All right. So, when the story came to the place where he started to speak with Balaam, Balaam asked, or the donkey asked Balaam and said, "Why did you beat me?" And the answer he gives is a telling one. He says, "You have made a fool of me these 3 times." That's why I beat you. Now, I want to take you back to the place where Balaam comes to, and he sees God, the angel of the Lord. He says there, let me just get my other note here that I put away so that I can read it properly. So the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his drawn sword in his hand, and he fell down on his face. And then he says this in verse 32. God says to him, "Why have you beaten your donkey these 3 times? I have come here to oppose you because your path is a reckless one before me." Now, Afrikaans says it great. Afrikaans, the old Afrikaans says, "Jou weg is baie styl in my oë." Gevaarlik styl. So the Afrikaans says, it's actually a very steep place that you are on. So I get again in this picture in my head, it's like walking on a ledge. And the ledge is very narrow. And the drop-off is very far. And Jesus comes, stands before him, the angel of the Lord, and he says to him, "Listen, your way, where you are on at this very moment, is in my eyes a very steep one. It's a reckless one before me." So Balaam comes and he goes to this space where he wants to do something, and he wants to go and tell these people, whatever they want to hear. But God stands in his way. Now, bringing it back to your and my hearts. We have become accustomed, and it's not necessarily wrong because sometimes we need to do it. But many times, we spiritualize away the things that God wants to address in our hearts. We make it very spiritual about all the demonic attacks in our life that we are going through in this very moment. And we kind of, take our little brush and we want to brush it all under that. Almost like Balaam did. It was very spiritual. Now, God says to Balaam, "Listen, your way is a steep one before me." So, in a story in our hearts, God will come sometimes, not always, but sometimes he will come and he will stand squarely in your path. Because from his point of view, your way is a really steep one in his eyes. But it isn't like, just like with Balaam, we do not necessarily see the Lord in first glance. Because we are arrogant and stupid and, whatever you want to put in there. So, God sends us donkeys. He sends donkeys to you and donkeys to me in our life. And you know what? The thing about a donkey, it's not a very impressive animal. It's very common. It can do a couple of things, it's fine. But we tend to look at donkeys like, it's just a donkey. I mean, the things that we say in our culture is, it's many times derogatory to donkeys. You're just a donkey. But God sends us donkeys in our life. So what do the donkeys look like? That's a good question. Donkeys look like people. Oi. Donkeys look like your boss. Donkeys look like your friends. Donkeys sometimes even look like street people. I think I told the story about that in the weekend, so I'll tell a couple of stories again. Just most of you I see wasn't that are here now. So one time I was in Malmesbury, and you kind of get to a place where you accept everybody and it's fine, and then your ears get stopped to hear the Lord through certain people. Sometimes. So what Anel and I did was in Malmesbury, because not like with you guys, most people come to, the family by the sea type of thing on holidays and long weekends. It's not necessarily so in Malmesbury. So there everybody just goes away. So our meetings, over long weekends and over Christmas and those type of things, they are smaller. So especially the long weekend, just in April, the Passover weekend, that one we used to go away as a family. And then I just said, listen, we'll have church on Sunday, but we're not going to do a Good Friday service because I want to go away. And then one morning at church, we've got an open church that really invites, or not, but we receive all of the people that are around there, and a lot of the street people that live on the streets come have coffee with us and that. We've got some rules, you need to at least be decent. But anyway, so they're there. So we know them, all of them that come more than others. And then there's one. His name is Peter, actually. He comes to me one morning. I'm standing in front, not preaching before the time. And he walks up to me, but straight. And I'm like, he comes to me and says, Pastor, you know what? Do you know that this is the only church in this whole town that doesn't have a service on Good Friday? I'm like, Jesus, I'm listening. From that day on, we had Good Friday services. And it's great to see how many people come. Now, when the Lord sends donkeys into your life, my life, the first thing that we want to do, especially because it goes about your heart, it's some things that the Lord has put his finger on. It's something that is there. And whenever one of these donkeys would dare to put their finger onto that thing, oh boy, you get out your shambok. And I shall beat you into submission. No. You will not go there, because I am a holy man of God. And those things I've dealt with, or you think so at least. But God sends those donkeys, and then, it doesn't look like what you and I want them to look like. God will send people that really irritate you. They get under your skin. They start to say things to you, and you're like, not the truth, according to you. So, a story like that I have, that the Lord really, in Afrikaans, we say, hy het my bymekaar gemaak. He sent me some donkeys. And it was a character flaw that was in my heart that the Lord needed to address. Because, as I always say, I'm a loud person. Or usually I sound very softly spoken so that you can laugh. But I'm not. I'm loud. I'm passionate. But mostly when I'm up here, it's weird. When people see me at home, they think like there's something wrong with the Waal. Because the Waal at home is not this necessarily the whole time. But anyway, in that passion of my heart, I do become somebody that can be persuasive with who I am and the way that I am. So, a couple of years back, the Lord took me on a little journey, like with Balaam. So, what happened was, my wife had some pearls that she wanted to have strung. And I took those pearls to the Tiger Valley Mall. There's a place there that does things like that. And I put them there, told the lady what I wanted her to do with it, and then I leave. And then in that same time, we still do old calendars, those Dutch Reformed Church calendars in Malmesbury. So every year we do that, and there's a place in Malmesbury that does that. And I took it to them, and they said, it's fine, they'll do it for us. So that place in Malmesbury every time I get there, they say it's Wednesday. And I'm like, okay. Wednesday I come and say, no, Friday. I say, okay, fine. Get down Friday, no, next Wednesday. So it's working me up very much. Now, back in the Tiger Valley thing is when I get there, they messed it up entirely. Those string of pearls that I thought my wife is going to wear around her neck can't even fit around a bracelet or as a bracelet. And now I am the customer, and the customer shall be right. And I start to tell this lady what I think about this. Not in a bad way, according to me, just like Balaam. But I'm very, forceful in what I'm saying, so that she would understand I'm not happy. And I go back to Malmesbury, and in that same space, I get to that place with the calendars again. Oh, my hat, not done. And the Waal was ready for action. Yesterday, the action, the sci-fi movie is about to start. So I told that guy there, he's the boss man, and with the boss man, all of his people were standing, and we were having an argument about just the level of service that I've received, and this is not on, in front of all these people. Maybe that was mistake number one. I don't know. And then at the end of this, when he sees that he's not going to win this fight, then, he pulls the church card on me. And Heinrich will know this. He says, and you have got a big place here. We've got closed community in Malmesbury. And he says, for Shofar in this town, no work ever again. I'm like, I thought it was me and you. Now you come and bring the church into this. The church has got nothing to do with this. Anyway, so then I leave there and I go home to my wife, the one that will, receive me, comfort me, say, you are so fine. Oh, my word. I'll get there. Get there to the place where my wife's supposed to do this. And I tell her all of my bemoanings. And then she says to me, Voila, you know what? Sometimes when you get angry, I'm afraid of you. Boom. And I'm like, that's, it's the farthest thing from my heart. But when I get angry, my wife experiences this. So I needed to go and do a check. And all of a sudden I see, those were all of my little drukgang stuff is that has happened. There was a wide space because when God puts his finger on our stuff, in the beginning, there's movement for you. You can wiggle your way out of it. The second time around, another donkey, it's a little bit more enclosed. You can't move so much. And the third time that God sends the donkey, there's no movement for you. My wife is not the donkey. But she was the third one, and I needed to face the reality of my steep path in the eyes of the Lord. Because Jesus looks at my path coming, and he sees, my boy, if you do not fix this now, we're going to have some problems later. Please get your character right. And how do you do that? Obviously, you repent, like Balaam. I did. But you know what? I've found when character things comes up and Jesus puts his finger on our stuff, that's the easy part. The easy part is to say, sorry, Jesus, you will forgive me. Yes, thank you. And then Jesus is awesome because he's the Lord. And he says, I forgive you, my boy. But. And then I'm like, the fear of the Lord grips you. But I want you to go back to that lady in Tiger Valley Mall. I want you to go and say you're sorry for the way that you acted to her. And then I want you to go back to the people there in Malmesbury. I want you to go and say sorry to them for the way that you acted. So I humbled myself. I went there, did that. And God has got a sense of humor as well. I go in there in Malmesbury, and all of the people that were with us in that fight, because this wasn't long, it was like the next day. So when I went in there, everybody was like, here is this pastor again. So I went in there, I said, they were all sitting there, I said, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. The way that I've acted is not right. I'm sorry for hurting you. Sorry for the way that I spoke to your boss. Please forgive me. They didn't even know what to do with that, okay? And then I said, is your boss here? Because now his office was in the back. Is your boss here? I said, no. He's only coming this afternoon. So God made me go back again and say sorry to the boss again. But you know what I learned? Is that when God puts his finger and he sends you the donkeys, stop beating the donkeys. Listen and see what is the angel of the Lord, what is he saying to you? And you and I will find that in that space, is where God really loves to work with us and to change our ways. So, obviously that's the title of my sermon because it's amazing. Not the title, but Jesus. When the way is in your way. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him. So the drukgang thing is so amazing for me. When Christ stands before you, there's no way around him for you. You must go through him. And he says to you, my boy, my girl, listen. Come through me. You need to leave that here. We're not going any further unless you lay this down. Are you willing? And then you can choose. Now, some scriptures as I finish this morning. Jesus says, and I said that to you already, John 14:6, he is the way. But then these two things, in Psalm 2 verse 12, it says this. It says, kiss the Son, lest he be angry. And you perish in what? In the way. Whose way? Your way. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and you perish in the way. For his wrath is quickly kindled, and blessed are all who take refuge in him. And then Proverbs 24:26. So how do you do this? How do you kiss the Son? How do you go through the way? Well, Proverbs 24:26 says, whoever gives an honest answer kisses the lips. Kiss the Son in honesty about what is going on in your heart. Stop lying to yourself. Stop beating the donkeys. Whenever God is in your way, take a moment and say, this is not a spiritual demon that I'm fighting. I'm actually fighting the Lord of all creation. And you cannot win that one, by the way. He's standing in your way because he wants you to see something. Something that is in your heart and your life that looks small to you. But actually, when he looks at you, he sees you standing on a ledge. And if you don't fix it, you'll fall off there. And he doesn't want that. And in the story of Balaam, what is so great to me, Jesus didn't tell him when he came to that realization, repented and stuff. He didn't say, okay, you ungrateful, whatever, person. He said to him, okay, go on this way that you are. But you only speak what I tell you to speak. He didn't send him back and say, okay, go back to where you were. It was actually quite great, So from that place, Balaam could continue on his way. Because God wanted to fix something in his heart. And he went through and he did what he wanted, or what God told him to do from there onwards. So this morning, maybe some of you are here. And you have been beating donkeys that God has sent into your life all too long. Maybe it's time for you and I to get to the place where we see, okay, maybe it's not my boss that is the ass. Yeah. Maybe not. Or maybe he is, but he's there for you. so that your donkey can speak to you and turn you to Christ. Say, Lord, what do you want me to see? Should I lay down my arrogance, having my own way, not being able to submit to my boss and serve him as unto you, which the Bible says? And will you lay down the thing that is in your heart that the Lord is putting his finger on? And stop making it so spiritual about the demons and the stuff, and start seeing that maybe, just maybe, the Lord is standing in your way, wanting you to see and to fix something in your character, because he sees your way forward and he can't allow you to continue with this thing again. So in my case, what happens in the Waal is when I get angry, demons jump. So God had to bring me back again, because then I went off the rocker. I was so timid, I didn't do anything. Then he said, hey, be angry and do not sin. The anger is not the problem. You can get angry and cast out demons, fine. But when you get angry and you sin against people, I don't want that. So just like Balaam, I got to a place I thought I needed to go back. God said, no. Fix this and continue. And the same for you. God won't change your total outlook on life necessarily. He just wants you to fix something specifically. Let's stand together.
Calling the nations, every tribe and every living thing.